And now, please welcome to the stage the editor and chief of Hypeotamus, Hollly Beilin.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here. So I'm also excited to talk to someone about a very, very futuristic, future-thinking product. Her name's Cathy Hackl. She is an Emmy award-winning communicator turned a augmented and virtual reality producer, speaker, and futurist. So let's bring Cathy on stage, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Awesome. Should I sit next to you? We'll just sit here.
I think let's get cozy.
That sounds good.
Perfect. So one thing I want to talk about before we get into the alternate realities is how you even got into this space. It's not something that I would imagine you could go into, middle school saying, I want to be a VR evangelist one day.
Yeah, definitely. So I trace my roots in the immersive world back to when I used to work for CNN here in Atlanta. I used to, part of the job there was to look at the raw footage that was coming in from the war in Iraq. So as you can imagine, I had to sit through things that were not very pleasant, just like Facebook moderators sometimes do, right? And it wasn't until I had my first VR experience that I didn't feel like I was fully able to turn it back on. I went to a conference, very much like this one, got invited to put a VR headset on, and I put it on and went into an experience called confinement by The Guardian. It put me in a 6x9 meter solitary confinement cell where prisoners spend about 90% of their time. And and within, I would say, a couple minutes, I felt completely claustrophobic. I took the headset off and I said, this is the future of storytelling on some level, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I gained some technical skills. And fast forward, 4 years, that was about 4 years ago. Fast forward, I now work with Magic Leap in their enterprise marketing team, and I'm also considered the #4 top technology voice on LinkedIn globally. So it's been kind of a wild ride.
So I want to get let's acknowledge how cool that is. But I want to get into this world of extended reality, but maybe first you could give us a demonstration of what this all looks like.
Definitely. I'm going to show you guys a video to start off because as Chris Milk, he's a famous VR director, says, talking about VR in this case is like dancing about architecture. Same thing with spatial computing, talking about it without actually showing you guys at least a little video of what it kind of looks like. Is going to help us frame the conversation. So let's go ahead and play that. See? There's audio on it too, so.
Fortunately, the airline canceled hundreds of flights.
Wow.
So pretty exciting. Who's excited just watching that? Woo! Awesome.
You would all be even more excited if you saw the video that Cathy showed me before this with a Game of Thrones augmented reality experience.
Woo!
Oh my God. You are in Westeros.
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff.
So that talked about a lot of different applications of this technology, but one thing I want to touch on before we even get into that is you used a term that, I know you've worked with HTC Vive, I know you've worked with a number of different places, and these terms are so early and so young that they're still being defined. You used the term spatial computing. Talk to me about why Magic Leap calls their technology spatial computing and how that differs from extended reality.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you've probably had lots of folks on stage talking about VR and AR. We call what we do spatial computing, and the big difference is here. So VR puts you in a, you put on a headset, takes you to a different world, shuts down the, it shuts you out from the real world. AR adds a digital element to your reality. With spatial computing, we use computer vision and artificial intelligence to seamlessly blend that digital content into your reality. And you're able to engage with that content, and that content is able to engage with you. So that's very powerful. As you guys probably saw in the video, when you put on a Magic Leap 1 headset, it starts meshing or measuring, let's say, mapping the space that it's in. So it creates this, let's say, this map of the room or wherever you're using your Magic Leap 1, and the content becomes spatially aware. And what I mean by this, and you've tried it so you know exactly what I'm referring to, is that if I put on the headset and I go into something like Create, which was created by Magic Leap Studios, and you place a virtual, say digital T-Rex in that table, because it is spatially aware, the T-Rex knows that if it keeps walking, it'll fall off, and it eventually falls off instead of just floating in thin air. So it's interactive, and you're able to engage with that content, which is very powerful.
So would you say it's smarter, it's AI driven?
Yeah, definitely. It's computer vision plus artificial intelligence to blend that content seamlessly into your reality.
Okay, very cool. And Magic Leap is one of the first companies doing this, right?
Yeah, we use the term spatial computing. We're one of the first companies doing this, one of the leaders, I would definitely say. And we really view this as the next computing platform. And you and I were talking about this, at the evolution of what's coming, after mobile, after our computers. What's that going to look like? So
amazing.
Yeah.
So that all looks really cool. The Game of Thrones thing was so entertaining, but let's talk about some practical applications of this. You mentioned one thing, which was storytelling, that this is the future of storytelling. How can that be applied in different industries to make it really valuable and really indispensable?
Definitely. I want to make a side note with that.
Yeah.
I really see a shift happening in how we engage with content. So we're used to being passive receivers of information, like storytelling.
Sure.
Someone's telling you a story, right? But with these technologies, you have more agency. So it transitions to what I call story living, where you're actually participating in these stories. And I think that that's the powerful part, the visualizing of these stories in your reality. So, from a storytelling perspective, that changes the paradigm, right?
Yeah.
Of how you bring stories to life. And then from, an enterprise perspective, which is what I'm doing for Magic Leap, it helps visualize content. So for example, we have a partnership with Brain Lab, and what we do is we have these 3D scans of the brain, and a patient can look at these 3D scans of their brain, get educated, but you can also have a doctor or a healthcare practitioner look at these as well and find new ways to diagnose, treat, and even train and educate themselves. So very powerful.
I love that phrase, story living, is what you said.
Yeah.
And that particularly resonates with me because I'm a journalist. And constantly, journalism is dead. Journalism has switched over to Twitter. But I saw that you had a partnership with CNN. Can you tell me a little bit how this technology could drive this future of journalism?
Definitely. So yeah, we have a partnership with CNN, for example, Cheddar as well. Cheddar is a business live streaming network as well. And I feel like journalists are trying to find a way to tell stories in new ways, and this is the type of technology that allows them to do so. It also, I think brings a lot of context to a story. If you're able to place someone in that story and have that experience. I love the fact that media is trying to embrace these technologies, whether it's their R&D department or journalism schools, and they're trying to learn, how do we use these technologies to take journalism to the next level.
How do you think that can help on the education front, the education of young journalists?
I'm seeing a lot of journalists really excited about it because it's opening so many avenues. I don't know how to phrase it. It's a really exciting moment, I think, for journalists, for storytellers, for creators. We call them creators. It's an exciting moment for creators to actually be able to create content that they can see in their reality. You know, every stage I'm on, I always say that content is expanding. It's expanding beyond the 2D content, flat content, which I think will always, you know, there'll always be a place for that, but it's expanding to content that is spatially aware.
Yeah.
And that's an exciting time, I think, for creators, storytellers, for anyone in business, that, you know, anyone that does 3D visualization, so.
What about the consumer end of things? So on the creator end, you can obviously see why this expands the stories they can tell. In something like entertainment, what are the applications that on the consumer end of things? Am I, you know, one day going to be able to be in Westeros?
Yeah, I think that's it's a great segue into, you know, the Game of Thrones experience that we have at Tribeca right now.
Yeah.
Very exciting, where someone puts a headset on and they're actually able to battle a knight. I can't remember their White Warrior.
The White Walkers.
White Walkers. Sorry, White Walkers.
Sorry if anyone doesn't
sorry,
like Thrones.
it's too much. The White Walkers, and it's been a huge hit at Tribeca for sure. Kind of that experience beyond you just, you know, watching something on a flat screen. There's been a lot of people that, for example, had never heard of Magic Leap, and they show up at Tribeca and they try the experience and they walk away excited about it. It's also being shown at AT&T stores across different cities. So, yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the spatial computing aspect of things, it makes the viewer, the consumer, able to sort of choose their story, right? Or participate in their story.
Participate. I think it makes them, you know, it makes them participants of an active story. So in this case, with the Game of Thrones, they're actually battling, you know, themselves. So, you know, no one's directing them to hit, you know, the warrior this way or this other way. It's more them controlling what they're doing in the experience. So.
And do you think that's the future of, you know, entertainment, of gaming, of all of that?
I think it's one of the futures. You know, I don't think that there's necessarily one path. If we walk away with anything today, is that it's about all these different technologies converging, right? And spatial computing and artificial intelligence are part of that. So
I want to talk about one thing that we mentioned, this concept of these virtual reality people, these virtual reality influencers that we've been seeing pop up on social media. What is the deal? What are these? And are those the future? Are we going to have virtual reality influencers in everyday life?
I don't know if that's necessarily the future from an influencer marketing perspective, but what I will tell you is that, you know, we have a virtual human called Micah that is...
We being Magic Leap.
We being Magic Leap, yeah. Magic Leap has a virtual
not
human
Cathy
called
and
Micah.
Hollly.
No, I don't.
Have
I do have a hologram of myself, but that is not...
As one does.
As one does, of course.
Of course.
And Micah, you know, Micah, people want to say that, you know, she's like a virtual assistant. She's not. She's really more of a companion and a friend. The experience, for example, when you meet Micah, you put the headset on and you're with her in a room and she looks into your eyes, and it's interesting to see people, if she yawns, they yawn. If she smiles, they smile. It's this really interesting human-centered artificial intelligence that drives our company, and I think that Micah is a big part of that.
And do these exist in other places as well? I know I've seen them on Instagram.
Oh, what do you mean, like?
A virtual reality influencer.
Yeah, virtual influencers, definitely. Yeah. Instagram has KFC. The Colonel Sanders is now a virtual influencer.
Oh,
so that's a really fun Instagram to follow,
I guess
for
if
sure.
it helps you want chicken.
Yeah, it's actually, he's a combination of being woke with like inspirational and hustle culture.
You know what?
It's
Woke
really
is the business strategy of 2019.
There you go.
So I've heard.
So awesome. And we have a small little video that I want to show you guys before we wrap up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see.
Someone has made a mistake that has killed all the vegetation across the whole entire galactic ecosystem. And you have received a mysterious cadet kit and are being tasked with helping regrow the vegetation for an entire galaxy. The original pitch for Seedling was having an alien bonsai tree live in your world. And that was as deep as it was, that you would care for this bonsai tree.
You were given this vision of like, we want to bring this alien plant form to life in real space, and that presented a number of challenges for us.
The key to it is finding ways that the content that you create, the digital content that you integrate to our world, understands our world. I think that that is the point where it becomes magic.
What's amazing to me is just how much it can read from your environment and kind of create a world that these characters can interact with.
Our final version actually looks at the real world around you because the Magic Leap device is constantly scanning all the tables and the floors and walls and everything. And our plant will grow around that stuff as it grows in.
One of the first times that I saw Seedling was their very first prototype. These guys did a great job in really grokking the platform, really understanding how to pull the magic out of it. When you take the headset off, the Seedling is still growing. It's alive in your mind, but it's actually the systems are going. So when you put the device back on the next day, the plant has grown a bit.
What's magical about it being on Magic Leap is that the real world can interact with your digital content. That can't happen in other mediums.
I animated like a few test things of these moths kind of flying in, and the moment you can kind of put your hand through and they would react, that's where I realized we'd kind of hit something.
Being able to see it in real life just really makes that content grounded, like it's something that's really there.
Seedling was conceived specifically for Magic Leap and spatial computing. It is incredibly hard for me to imagine this working on another platform. It might look beautiful, it might be charming, but I don't think you're going to get the same richness of experience or interactions on any other platform or medium.
I have to tell you, Cathy, as a storyteller or a story liver, I cannot wait to be a story liver.
Yeah, I think
It's
the next
amazing.
10 years are going to be, really exciting from a storytelling and content perspective.
For sure. Well, it was great to talk to you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.